Hey all! New day, new verses as we continue on into chapter 19. Today we are doing verses 13 through 15. Here we go. Jesus blesses the children. One day, some parents brought their children to Jesus so he could lay his hands on them and pray for them. But the disciples scolded the parents for bothering him. But YESHUA said, "Let the children come to me. Don't stop them. For the kingdom of heaven belongs to those who are like these children." And he placed his hands on their heads and blessed them before they left. I know it's a little bit short. I mean, it's the 3 verses, but there's so much to dig into here. Because there were a couple questions that I started thinking about and having discussion with when I was looking at these. Like, some parents brought their children to Jesus, YESHUA, so that he could lay his hands on them and pray for them. So you've got these parents who recognize that Jesus is greater. We don't know to the extent at which these parents recognize it, but at the very least they're going, no, I want this person to bless my kids. And I started thinking, okay, well, I mean, anyone who's ever really hung out around kids knows that they're not particularly fond of doing things like that. Most of them generally, well, I don't want to, but these ones, going to an event that they may not necessarily understand, they're being obedient. They're listening to their parents. They're trusting the mama, as it were. Trusting their daddy. They're going, okay, I may not get this, but they do. And I started digging a little deeper, but the disciples scolded the parents for bothering him. I was thinking, well, why would you do that? Well, generally, I mean, this is the ancient world. He is a king. The king. And generally, children were not allowed before the king. Heck, we have examples of Esther, which takes place much, much before this, where if the king did not extend his scepter, whoever came in without being invited by the king could potentially be put to death, including the queen. That's why she says, "If I perish, I perish." And so it strikes me that, okay, we've got this world where even nowadays, people of certain, levels up in society, well, we don't go near them because you're just the rabble. And here we've got Jesus saying, no. That's not how my kingdom works. The kids are welcome in. I want that childlike faith and understanding that says, well, I may not get this, but my parent does. My daddy does. Our ABBA gets this. So even if we don't have to. We can just trust in him. So you've got this reaction of Jesus saying, let the children come to me. Don't stop them. So whereas the disciples are treating this much akin to, well, we don't let kings near the kids, he's going, no. My kingdom is upside down. It is least of these first. It is where the last will be greatest and the greatest will be last. It is a kingdom where what we think in this world with the human ways and the human thoughts is going to be nothing like what we think it should be. Because remember, his ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts. So when he welcomes these children in, it is throwing a wrench at that version of kingdom. The human way of, well, we don't allow children near the king because the king is far too busy, far too important. And the king, all capital letters, king, Jesus, YESHUA, is saying, no. I'm not playing that moronic game. The kids are welcome. Childlike faith is welcome. It's what's supposed to be. Remember, the kingdom belongs to, and I quote, those who are like these children. Who came, even if they didn't understood it, obedient. Because, well, even if I don't know, my parents do. My parent, YESHUA, the Lord, our Abba Father, knows. And it comes to this beautiful place of trust where he's saying, no, when you do trust like that, I'm welcoming you. Come, please. Learn my way of doing it. Be learned my way of doing it by seeing that it looks nothing like the human way of doing it. That love welcomes the least of these, that the kingdom is built bottom up, not top down. The very antithesis of bureaucracy and the way the world kingdoms look. Because it is about doing justice and mercy and righteousness. And justice and righteousness, and you're like, well, what does that mean? It means seeking out others to set things right. so that everyone can come before the throne of God as his creation. So that we can go from being dead to alive. Getting his life in us. Being made a new creation. Because even if we're on, doesn't mean we're alive. I've met plenty of people who are very much on, but dead as a post. Myself included in my past. That's why I can speak of being alive and on or dead and off, because you can have people like Shmuel or Samuel, people like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, David, very much on and alive in their time. Now, for us in 2020 plus, 2021, 2022 is like around the corner. Time flies. So for us, Jacob, Isaac, Abraham, David, they may not be on, but they're very much alive. And I think that's kind of the difference here. The upside down kingdom is a place where we can be given true life, where everyone comes before the throne, not focusing on the game, just dwelling with our Abba. And I love the way verse 15 here, 15 ends. And he placed his hands on their head and blessed them before he left. Oh man, there is some richness in there. I can just see him doing that to disciples before he ascends after his resurrection. I can see him doing that to his disciples before he leaves for the Garden of Gethsemane after the Last Supper. I can see him blessing, putting his hands, pulling in for a hug, giving that blessing and saying, I've got you. I was really tempted to do just an entire thing on all the times where God has come in, put his hands on, blessed the woman with the issue of blood. He stopped and blessed her. The blind people, Son of David, have mercy on me, stopped and blessed them. And that is the very nature of what he does again and again and again. That he will look after the least of these. A leprous woman who we don't even have her name, but who God saw everything about her and even felt the energy leave him as she was healed by faith. So that he could say, and I'm willing to bet that he knew exactly who did it. I mean, he's God after all. But he wanted her to be seen for who she is. A daughter. A most loved daughter. Just like these little children. Blessed and welcome. Because children who are like these are who the kingdom belongs to. That's the beauty we're talking here. A beauty that says, the world is very much dead. Would you like life? And life more abundant than you can fathom? Because nothing out there is going to give it to you. Nothing. Nothing. Mountains turn to dust. Stars decay into nothingness. Nothing out there will be resolute and forever. Nothing. Nothing. It will all fade. Mountains crash into the sea, continents supplicate. I mean, we've had at least 4 Pangea-like structures on this planet. Just keeps marching on. But God is eternal. But God says, time's not forever. But I created time and I can use it however I want to make sure I come after you. That I set you right with me so you can be in relationship. And that's what our God did. He came as a human, born in a manger, lived a sinless life, died a sinless death in our place so that we could have true life. It's like, aren't you repeating this a little bit? A little bit, yeah, but it's important. Because this is the only thing that really does matter. Everything else will fade. The true story of a person is completely lost to time. We have to use different scientific aspects to find out things about Tutankhamun's diet, for example, but we know nothing about his life, his hopes, his wants, his dreams, nothing. Even David. We don't know how he thought, but God knows everything about us. So why not get into a relationship with the one who is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and is consistent in character of saying, I love you, just come here. Put down the world's crap and come here. Say, I will have childlike faith to go, okay, I may not get it, but if the options are letting you learn me how to do it, or playing the same game of murder hobo that has been going on since human beings 2 and 3, why? That's the choice. It's what the choice has always been. God or not. It's very black and white here. God knows we operate in the gray, and He'll chase us down. He went through death, hell, and the grave. He went through crucifixion to come chase us down. He'll come. And we keep praying that He'll come again. His kingdom come, that He returns. The second coming, that He will set it all right. When that happens, show's over. So let's get right now. We have time to put away the human things, the 20 minutes of hate, the behavior that's the same repetitious ugh. It's been going on forever. Let's do better. Let's trust that God knows what He's doing. Live in that childlike faith that says, okay, I'm going to trust my parent. I'm going to trust the mama. I'm going to trust my Lord. Because that's the core of it. Trust. Putting down our perception of life and taking up His. Laying down our lives so that we may truly find it. That's the kind of trust. That childlike trust that says, my parents are bringing me in here to get blessed by Jesus. I may not get what's going on, but hey, you know what? I'm just going to do it. Because these little children, they're honoring their father and mother just by showing up. They're living love in their obedience. Not blind obedience, but respectful. We have a way that we can live. One that does righteousness and justice. That aims to see things set right. And we talked about justice. That justice and mercy are two sides of the same coin. And if righteousness is the idea of things being set right, the very nature of how we live is going to look different. It is going to be that childlike moment of, well, God said to behave like this. He said to love others. Even if. He said to forgive them 70 times 7. He said that if I look at somebody with lust in my heart, I've already committed adultery. I mean, it's a really high bar. And if you're focused on the morality game, you'll never make it. That's talking to somebody who tried. Who really, really tried to do the morally good thing. It's like, well, I've done this evil, so maybe if I do a little bit of good, I can't. You can't. I'm sorry, you can't. Trying to be a morally good person, you'll never truly get it 100% right. You won't. It's like, well, does that mean we don't try? No. Not at all. We just come at it from a different approach. We recognize that we have nothing to offer God. We can just receive the gift He gives as He molds and shapes our characters and turns us into that new creation. What we have to give is from Him anyway. We give Him praises, well, it's borrowed breath. We sing songs of joy, it's His joy in us. This is the kind of relationship we're talking to, one that is organic and intimate and far deeper and far more rich than can be fathomed. It's a richness that the world cannot offer, that humans instinctively search after and long for. But as long as we're digging into the world's way of doing it, we're never going to find it. Ever. I spent my life hunting for it. Searching out every drop of wisdom I could find. Because in my past, I would debate regularly. I won awards for it, debating that you didn't need God to be moral. And I can promise you this, you do. Yeah. Because when you're with God in an intimate relationship, you stop focusing on the idea of morality. You stop focusing on the balancing act between good and evil and right and wrong, and you just exist. What does an image do? What does a statue do? What does a photo do? It reflects the image. What does a mirror do? It reflects the light that shines in it. So we're not playing this balancing act game. We're just living. We're a human being in those moments, not a human doing. We're not aiming to be morally right or morally wrong or morally good or morally whatever. We're just interested in chasing after God who sets all things right. Putting down our own lives so that we can gain true life. To truly thrive in a state of peace, a state of shalom, where He takes away the parts of us that we don't need anyway. In the comments or the description a couple of videos ago, I put that forgiveness costs us everything and nothing. Yeah. The reason I say that is because if the idea of forgiving somebody something hurts, the point where I don't want to, I hate what they've done, all this anger, it'll cost you everything. It'll cost you your ego. It'll cost you your own, it'll cost your selfishness. You will have to put down the selfishness in you to be able to welcome God's forgiveness. Because the prayer is, forgive us as we have forgiven others. To live a completely different life. One only possible when He's living in us. We fight our battles on our knees in a state of praise and trust, knowing that He sets it right. Being the hands and feet where He tells us to go. And I think that's what the parents were doing here. They were being the hands and feet when they brought their little kids to Jesus. Giving to the next generation, look, see, there is the Son of David. There is the Messiah. And the kids, they didn't get it then. In this passage, they're just doing what they're told. Being obedient. They're saying, I may not get it, but they do. Same kind of love for us. Same kind of relationship for us. I may not get it, but my Abba does. I may not understand how I can forgive somebody again and again and again and again and again, but my Abba does. And I'm going to trust that He'll shape my character so that 70 times 7 forgiveness is not a matter of mathematics. It's a matter of constantly pouring out the same kind of love that we're shown. It'll cost you everything. And in the same moment, it will cost you nothing. Because salvation is free. The gift of eternal life is free. And a lot of the Christian walk is trying to figure that one out. Just how to receive that. Just how to work out the understanding that it costs everything and nothing. Because the everything that it costs is part of us that wasn't meant to be there in the first place. The scars that God heals. The wounds that He sets right. He's fixing it. And we trust Him to do so. Just like these kids did here with their parents. They trusted. And Jesus showed His disciples and all of us years later, throughout all the centuries, that His kingdom is very much different. His kingdom welcomes the least of these. So if you feel like you are the least of these, rejoice, because God's kingdom is for you. He wants you. So chase after Him. Because as we're celebrating this Christmas season, I want to rejoice for just a moment that the shepherds who find Him, the wise men found Him as a child. The shepherds found Him laying in the feeding trough. Shepherds who were the outcast and dregs of society that nobody trusted or wanted around them. And He saw them, the people, the men that were taking care of these sheep. He saw the actual and the people, their lives, their hopes, their dreams, their sorrows, their wants. Seeing them, even when society didn't. That's the kind of God we serve, where least of these are welcomed, and the lost are who he came to save. And as I wrap up, I just want to remind and rejoice for a moment about the fact that, and he placed his hands on their head and blessed them. Because he will pour out that kind of blessing on you. You just got to receive it. It means putting down the world's ways, picking up his. Doesn't feel the easiest. And when parts of us that were never meant to be there are dying, it can be a little painful. But I promise you, it is more worth it than anything you will ever do. Because an intimate relationship with the Creator One is the core of what really matters. After all, seek first the kingdom, and all will be added. So why don't we live like we believe it? No, I'm trying to. I hope you guys are as well. Because it's truth. Seek first the kingdom, and all will be added. You just got to seek first the kingdom. Now, I will see you guys tomorrow as we go over the discussion of the rich man, verses 16 right through to the end of chapter 19 with verse 30. I'm looking forward to digging into it tomorrow as we wrap up the week. May his favor be upon you. Know that you are loved, and know that he will see you through all things. Because when you only see one set of footprints, that's when he's carrying you. I'll see you then.